like to play utility, but I still have something up my sleeve, and I do like this against the Kimmy. Kimmy, yes, as a mid laner, doesn't have the largest range. You do have some dash, you do have some kite, but Lancelot is one of the few assassins who can quickly close that distance.
Yeah, but doesn't this mean that RRQ now will have to commit a Fredrin ban? Or they're just willing to give the Fredrin to the hands of SRG, but it's a tried and tested combo. Fredrin and Kimmy together, paired up with the Kalea, just does so much for the Kimmy that as RRQ might not, that puts too much pressure onto the Pharsa and the Lancelot to make sure they get Stormy down.
I think that right now, with what RRQ is trying to do, is trying to kind of set the tone for the draft, right? Especially within this first phase. And with SRG, we have like sub-synergies, nothing really solid like we saw in game number 2. But immediately, we are making sure that RRQ is saying, hey, number 1, we need to get rid of burst damage style heroes, right? That's why they're getting rid of the likelihood of Joy. I think they're also going to get rid of another assassin. I would assume Hayabusa in this particular case to not only protect the Pharsa so that it doesn't combo alongside the Kalea.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I do like the idea of the Fredrin ban as well. Either could work out, especially with the fact that so much utility jungle's already gone. But yeah, SRG also needing some burst damage for themselves, like you said, maybe something like the Hayabusa. Or do they just go for the double marksman, tank front line, you know, wait it out, take it slow, it's match point. They do have opportunity for that overall.
And I think this is the tough part now for RRQ, because it's literally their choice, whether it's the Fredrin ban, which it is, or whether it was going to be a Hayabusa ban, which it could have been. Now, Hayabusa is potentially looking good for SRG. As we mentioned, a lot of the tanky fighter-style junglers are gone, so they don't necessarily need to lean into the double marksman, but I think they will. Granger still looks really good for SRG, unless RRQ decides to take it away.
I think Granger is definitely a possibility. RQ could easily scoop that up, though, up front, unless our SRG says, no, we're going to ban that out, too, and that gets rid of more burst damage potential. They get rid of the Cho, solid ban.
Really, really good foreshadowing coming in from, sorry, not foreshadowing, but foresight coming in from Arcadia. Because now, because we've seen this 2 times already where Kesku is trying to corner the jungle options. Unless they want to play something like Xborg again, right now there's a lot more burst coming out from RRQ's side to maximize that value.
Yeah, and speaking of burst, if RRQ lock in something like a Hilda here, potentially thinking about a Granger pickup of SRG, I think SRG wins. Because if that's a Hilda, good thing it wasn't! Because this pick for Eda only shows up when RRQ are on, alright boys, game phase mode, game time mode, we can't lose this. Edoc's signature pick in the roam.
This is so good. I was thinking whether or not they wanted to get the Gatot for themselves, at least then they have some form of counter-engage against the Kalea, but unfortunately in this case, Tigreal works the exact same way, if not a little bit more precise with a scalpel rather than going for the big heavy left hand.
I wonder if we see something spicy here from SRG OG, something a little out of the norm. They've been able to surprise us with a few picks so far, and I think, yeah, we could keep it simple, go for like Hayabusa Granger, Moskov locked in. I am a little worried about, I'm kind of a little worried about Assassin up front, but also now with the Tigreal, Assassin isn't looking too bad, something that's not just going to get bullied around. There goes the Hayabusa. Last pick for RRQ though. Do they just go for the Granger?
Yeah, I think that might be their best bet. They need to even out the range. Yeah, they do lock in the Granger. Oh, RRQ brought out their big guns as Edox, Tigreal. But SRG's lineup could be very good as well. It's a 50-50 for me.
Yeah, it's a really big 50-50. I think there are a lot of counterplay for each of the individual lanes, especially for the mid duo. I think the problem is when it comes down to like first interactions, right? How is Little Wanderer going to go? How is the first turtle going to happen? Because we need to see Edok hit level 4.
All right, will this be game number 5 or will it end here? RRQ and SRG, the fans in the arena, you need to show your love and make some noise for the teams you're supporting. Bring it on, Naisu, take us in.
Thank you so much once again to the panel for breaking it down here in game number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it there. It's match point right now for SRG OG Esports as they move on forward. Or can we get to a game number 5 here? A maxed out series for this one. A trip, of course, to the semifinals ahead of them. RRQ's got to pull something up their sleeves. They brought out the Tigreal for Edok. Brigitte, do you think this is right? I mean, we heard the sentiments from the panel.
Yep.
You know, it could come down to some big plays coming out here from RRQ.
I mean, when it does come to these do-or-die situations, those clutch moments wherein you have to bring in these picks, your familiarity, your comforts, undeniably, we've seen it multiple times. But whether or not these will be the right calls, because I'm worried from the way we've been seeing the past few games that RRQ, Edok may have been a bit too decisive on these calls, but it has to be all of them being decisive and coming together to follow up. So maybe that's my biggest worry. But in terms of playmaking, setups, okay, for sure Edok is going to be delivering on this Tigreal.
He has to. I think, you know, that's one of the main things. Like, anytime we see one of these series, it's always the case. You know, it's the team that's able to go ahead and overlap the ultimates better or have the better execution, like we like to say, or make the less mistakes. But in this case, you know, as we take a look at the emblems too, I think a big part of this, once again, comes in the hands of Edok. He's got to be able to set things up. Now, you sprinkle in some of that responsibility with Dairon, like the XP laners are to be expected so far in our current meta. But I guess one of the biggest differences here in specifics to Edok is the Tigreal, it's a little bit more, I would say, assured to get a setup instead of the Cho. You can see already the pressure, though.
Oh, fortunately, Rins gets to reposition, so won't get taken out just yet. But the Phantom Execution gets delayed by a bit through that knock-up. Still, everyone gets to survive, though. Maybe not Stormy if the last hit still connects, but they just get to force out the recalls, and I feel like that's already something massive for RRQ. Dairon literally going at it. Yume's forced to flicker. Better Dare Strike also committed by Rins. So they've done a really good job already, even without getting these kills.
Here, Dairon's coming back. He's like, I have a flicker. I got to the Dark Wave. He goes anyway. I knew he was going to do it. He had the flicker available, and they get the call to come back. So RRQ goes in, gets a double for Dairon and the turtle.
Okay, so they did not settle with just the recalls, with just the battle spells. They had to get the kills, because I feel like that's where RRQ literally gets activated, when they're able to just set the tempo and keep the pace. But now they seem to go after Toy. He has no way out of that storm, or Innocent gets very low, however, but now they're gonna play it safe. They're already happy with what they got there. That's the trade. It's a bit delayed, but that's the trade for SRG for now.
Yeah, it's still the case here, you know, and like we've seen, oh, hold on, mid lane, Rain's gonna be in trouble, wings by wings, flaps on around, and will still be alive. Susan sees Stormy so low, but I don't think he's gonna be able to cover the ground. So this is the thing, you know, you have this trading going on. The big part of this is now Cram has to go against a 2-0 Phoveus, and like we've seen, Phoveus, even without kills, will usually be able to just kind of tank up 3 dudes, you know, 1v3 if he has to. This gives him a little bit of the advantage, but Cram on the glue is still relatively going to be fine, at least in the lane.
Yeah.
But once these next objective fights break out, that's where, you know, it's going to be kind of important that Cram is able to go ahead and utilize the glue against Dairon's Phoveus here.
Yeah.
But also, it's just the case. Look at the damage already on Innocent.
Cancelled by the knockup from the title strike, though, but the Phantom Execution just in time. Sujin gets to land it on Innocent, now looking after Stormy. Doesn't land the Thorn Rose, though. But still, that's a lot. They got the kill on Innocent and Yumes. And this is the time where Edok gets a lot more online, because he's hit his level 4, so there are a lot more angles that RRQ can decide to play with, all aside from what you mentioned about Dairon being on an early 2-0. We don't even know what item he's going for first.
We don't, but look at this, the fight for the turtle. Suzujin proven that he can play the assassins as well, of course. Turtle secured, second one in the hands of RRQ. SRG might have a kill on the board, but other than that play they made on Toy earlier on, they haven't been able to really do anything. RRQ is playing into the composition that they have. This is always the case with a Pharsa. Pharsa's damage is just pretty tough to deal with when you're getting set up in the mid lane, especially around this. They're going to go with the implosion in the setup.
Dairon goes in, but has the flicker to keep himself alive. Actually went for the blade armor first item, but ooh, the damage from Rins already too much. Edok actually finds a setup onto Yumes in the top lane, and Toy gets last hit. What better way to establish this early game for RRQ. Toy gets involved, gets some kills, And they've been very clean in terms of whoever they decide to go for in terms of setup so far.
He just got the Sky Piercer as well, so, you know, unfortunately he didn't have earlier before he gets skills, but now he's got it, and things for RRQ are going to go ahead and set things up. This is why the positioning for the roamers are imperative. You can see Edok right now playing the patient game. He's going to go ahead, gives the information, Implosion, Traction Pulse is already going to be used, and Edok is waiting for that ultimate to be available. It should be up soon. He's going to conceal anyway.
Sacred Hammer finds Crab, forces out the flicker. And they still get to hand over that purple buff to Sutsujin regardless. So now he's one level ahead of Sekai's. Not looking too good because it seems like RRQ, they're just so in sync right now. They're covering the map so well. And they know where they just want to transition next. I mean, look at where Edok positions himself. One bush after another.
Brigida, he's like, okay, I didn't have the implosion earlier on. I have it now. You know, so he went in with Sacred Hammer. That was fine. Didn't get anything. But ultimately, they're playing around this last turtle of the game. The turret in the bottom does go down. Traction Pulse going to be used again, but tanky enough to deal with this. They might try to go ahead and just set up for the turtle. Just focus on that. Everybody from RRQ is here. Sakai's, I don't think he makes it in time, so that's 3 for 3 objectives now for RRQ. At least for SRG, they go and put a push on that tier 1 turret. That's about the best that Innocent can do, at least for now.
Oh.
But the eyes are set here for the tier 1 in the mid.
Yep. Yums can potentially go in if he finds an angle, but he will be respecting RRQ for now. Innocent goes in with the SOD just to join his other teammates, as Dyred is kind of forced to respond as well to the pressure that is being applied by Innocent here. I mean, that's the most they can do for now. Not until they feel like they have sufficient resources in their arsenal. They're working on a double marksman lineup nonetheless, so I feel like the late game won't be that big of a problem if ever SRG OG are able to extend the fight. But does Innocent know that Rinse is there?
Well, they're going to know he's there anyway.
Oh, now they find out!
Oh.
The Feathered Airstrike lands onto Innocent. That was so unfortunate.
The question was did Rins know? You know, like, I'm pretty sure because he calls Sujin either to come clear that wave and then just spots him out. So Innocent going down there is really unfortunate for SRG. This is probably the biggest lead that we've seen so far in the series now. RRQ holding on to almost a 6K gold lead. You can see the difference here in terms of itemization. Toy has no problem taking down this tier 2 up the top side. So the map is pretty open for RRQ. Conceal's going to be used.
Okay.
I don't think they are able to catch anyone, but if they get a shield this early on,
wow,
that's great for RRQ.
Oh my goodness, that was a Purify already forced out of Stormy when all other members of RRQ weren't even nearby. But the Ogi Shadow Kill gets split up against 4 members. Somehow Cram also gets to mount on Edok, but they won't be going with the fight just yet. Tidal Strike to deny Sutsujin. Spear of Misery also
Cram's still
to
there.
push him back a bit. But look at the damage and the sustain coming in from RRQ. Now Innocent next on the chopping block. That's 3 members of SRG just deleted. Even when we thought they could actually find a way to fight back.
Such a clean game right now from RRQ. Sakai's in trouble, forced off with the Feathered Airstrike, and this is an early base turret being knocked down from RRQ. SRG can't do anything but watch as the base turret falls, and meanwhile the Lord has been worked on and secured by Sutsujin. And this is going to be a big play now for RRQ to march into a base that is vulnerable for SRG.
When you said they secured the Lord, I had to check if Innocent had an SOD because of like the amount of times it happened. But yeah, I mean, there have been so many resources burned out here by SRG just to push back the members of RRQ, just to force them to walk away. And I mean, they did successfully do so, especially in terms of trying to at least push Edok away, but that didn't stop Dyren, that didn't stop the other members, but that's a Tsunami Slam already committed onto Edok. Won't be able to cast a setup just yet, but look at how Rince positions himself with the Feathered Airstrike. So Tsujin goes in with the Phantom Execution, finds the kill onto Stormy. There's an knock as well coming in from Yums, but look at the Rhapsodies from Toy, now isolating Sekai's and gets a double on the group. stranger.
A great initiation, a great sandwich play under the tier 2. RRQ balloons himself to an 11,000 gold lead. Can they end the game here?
It seems like the kingdom is only after one thing. Setsujin gets the kill on Innocent, Rin's great positioning just to clear the waves, and they will deliver indeed. We